Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I've been married to a covert narcissist for almost 20 years now. I'm separated from him and I use this channel as a way to get information out there to people about what narcissism really is, what it looks like, what it does to you, and what it does to your family. In today's video, I'm going to speak a little bit more in depth about what narcissistic abuse really does to your brain and what you can do to help yourself. From the beginning of time, humans have wanted to learn about the world around them. We wanted to know things like, what are the stars? Who are we as people? How did we get here? Huge questions. And science has answered a lot of our questions. Science and technology have made huge strides as people pondered these questions and came up with answers. But we want to know things about the world around us, but also smaller things like what's going on in your own home on planet Earth. How can you make sense of your own life? We just crave logic, understanding, knowledge. And when you are with a narcissist, that all goes out the window because you're with somebody that is completely illogical. Basically, when you're with a narcissist, you're with somebody that is brain damaged. They don't function in the world the way that other people do. And you, with a normal functioning brain, cannot understand it. But your brain outside of yourself needs to know, and it craves this knowledge. So when you're with somebody that will see something black and insist it's white, even though it is so obvious that it is not, that affects you because you cannot understand it. And when you cannot wrap your brain around something, your brain goes on autopilot trying to figure it out. When you're with a narcissist, they try to make the world fit how they want it to fit. Reality means nothing to a narcissist. So you can see things so clearly, but the narcissist absolutely refuses. And that can have devastating effects on your own mental health. One thing that can happen is that you can get PTSD or CPTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. What that is the difference between the two is really the number of events. Post-traumatic stress disorder is typically one traumatic event. Now, it can be a huge event and a long-term event. Stereotypically, it's somebody that was in a war. So, you're in the war and these horrible things happen. You're witness to tragedy. Then after the war, you're safe, you're okay, but you hear a car backfire and suddenly you're right back in the war and your pulse is racing, you're sweating, you feel real fear as if you're back in that terrible situation. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder is very similar to that, except there's more than one event. So, when it comes to narcissistic abuse, for example, my husband I got post-traumatic stress disorder from last summer. My husband was carted off to a mental hospital and it was right outside my house, but I didn't know he was outside my house, passed out with a loaded gun. Somebody called the police and they carted him off to a mental hospital. I was woken up in the middle of the night to my doorbell ringing, and fixed in my mind even now is if I see certain flashing lights like police sirens, not so much if I see it on the road, but if I see it from like peripheral vision, I feel so tense. I feel like I'm back in that moment. I feel fear because as I was walking to my front door with my doorbell ringing in the middle of the night, my dogs are barking. I see flashing lights around me. It was very scary. So that can bring me right back there. But I have CPTSD because not only do I have that issue, I have constant anxiety from his many lies. When I lived with him, I would feel real fear when he would come home. I would hear his car in the driveway and I would be afraid. What type of mood is he going to be in? Is he going to be ignoring me? What's he going to do? He had issues. I have to pay all the bills now because when he used to pay them, he used to decide not to pay certain bills. He would charge up tens of thousands of dollars on credit cards where I didn't know. Going to the mailbox, even now, can sometimes make me fearful. I'm happy when it's Sunday and there's no mail because I still feel that fear. It is an ongoing traumatic event. So it's more than one thing, and you can have CPTSD. It's very common in narcissistic relationships for that to be an issue that you have. When you are living in a constant state of anxiety and fear, it really affects your brain. You know, the hippocampus is an area of the brain that can literally shrink with ongoing abuse, ongoing stress. Cortisol is released into your bloodstream, and that is a hormone created by stress. It has to do with the fight or flight. So fight or flight is a very necessary thing for people, because if something terrifying happens, you want to be able to get out of there. I have backyard chickens, and when they get afraid, they just stand still. They don't move. If I have them all gated in so nothing can get them, but if they were outside and say a fox came, they would just sit there. That's where sitting ducks come from, but in this case, sitting chickens. When they're afraid, they don't move. Humans aren't like that. When we're afraid, fight or flight will kick in. Am I going to fight this person? You know, if it was the chicken, am I going to fight the fox? Am I going to fly away? What am I going to do? That's what humans do. But when it is the cortisol is constantly flooding you, you're always feeling that, and it can literally shrink your hippocampus. And that is the area of the brain that is responsible for short-term memory. Information is stored there until it's converted to permanent memory. So when your hippocampus shrinks, it affects your ability to learn things. In a really bad, drastic way, you could literally not be capable of learning anymore because your brain is so affected by the narcissistic abuse. Another thing that happens when cortisol is released is it changes your amygdala. It can shrink your amygdala. That's where your primary emotions are. So the fight or flight is affected with the fight or flight affects your amygdala as well. You're on a constant state of alert. And what that's going to do is it's going to exacerbate your post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. So your memory is affected, and then on top of that, the stress and trauma that you already feel is exacerbated because it never goes away. You're constantly flooded with cortisol. Your brain can also trick you into not thinking that the situation is that bad. So what can happen is, because it's traumatic to think that somebody, like in my case, that my husband actually does not care about the well-being of me or our kids. He doesn't care. That's a traumatic thing to try to believe, to get that basically through your head that this is your reality. So your brain can sometimes cling on to little nice things that the person did. You could say, well, he did get me flowers on our anniversary. He must care. Oh, it's our daughter's birthday. I bet he's thinking about the day she was born and how amazing that was. And maybe he is. Who knows? He did get me flowers on our anniversary. But that doesn't erase all the terrible things that he's done. He is not there for our family. My son has had issues. He's had problems because of the way that his father treats him. I've told my husband this. He does nothing, not one thing. He ignores his own child, his own children. He doesn't care. So just because he bought me flowers on our anniversary doesn't take away the fact that he's been abusing us for years. He doesn't care. But your brain will latch on to the little nice things. And if you're not careful, suddenly you take this person back. And this is what happens to people, where you'll hear about somebody that was killed by their spouse, say. And then you find out that this person's been being abused by them for the last 10 years. They got away, they're at a women's shelter, and then the guy sweet talked them back, and now she's dead. And you think, well, how could that happen? That could never happen to me. I wouldn't let somebody do that to me. But when you're in that constant state of fear and stress, you're not making rational, good decisions. So what you can do, and this is what I'm trying to do now, is there's a couple things you could do. This is happening to you. Therapy is always a great option where you could talk to somebody, just make sure it's somebody that is familiar with trauma, because you wouldn't want somebody to agree with you when you're thinking it's not so bad. You need somebody that knows trauma, understands narcissistic abuse, and you could really make great strides. Now, therapy is important. Not everybody can afford therapy, but so therapy would be one thing if you could find a good therapist. Another thing, and this is what I'm trying to do now, is keep a diary where you are recording the different things that happen. Because, like I said, my husband bought me flowers for my anniversary. Now, I personally wasn't that affected by that, but in years past, I would have been. So a case like that where, say, I'm feeling, oh, he must really care about me, fine, I can write that down, but I can also go back several weeks, day after day after day of him ignoring me, abusing me, finding out that he charged up a bunch of money on credit cards, he ignored the kids on their birthday, stuff like that. And so you have a record, so you're not just triggered by these quote unquote happy moments. You see the progression, the reality. Because when you're with somebody that's abusing you, you have to get out of the relationship. It's just that it's not as easy as people outside the relationship might think. You need to overcome the trauma that has happened to you. And it's a process. It takes time. But with doing little things, like I said, therapy, writing down things in a diary, prayer, things like that can really have you make great strides, because it's traumatic. It's hard. I have a hard time because I'm a single mother. I don't want to be a single mother, but that's my reality. And I try to be the best mother I can. I try to be the best person I can, but I can't be the best mother, the best person I can when I'm constantly stressed out. So eating right, these are all stereotypical things, but it's the little things that as they add up can make such a difference. And also realize that you are not alone. There are other people out there. It doesn't feel like it. I'm surrounded by people. I understand this. I'm surrounded by people that are happily married, that have good relationships, and I want that too. But just because I want it doesn't mean I'm going to automatically have it. So I'm really trying to just take it one day at a time and improve to be the best version of myself that I can be, because that really is the best revenge to your narcissist, because the narcissist is never going to improve. They're never going to get better. They are permanently disabled. You are not. So you are not alone. I want everybody who feels that way to know that. Feel free to email me. My email is in the link. And I really appreciate you watching the video. Please like it please give it a thumbs up if you like it, and please consider subscribing to the channel. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Bye-bye.